The marble lobby gleamed under cold fluorescent light. Rainwater slid from Olivia Grant's umbrella, pooling quietly at her heels as she approached the counter. Exhaustion veiled behind poise. Her tailored navy suit still bore the faint creases of a 14-hour flight from Tokyo. The clerk didn't look up. His manicured fingers danced over the keyboard, his tone clipped. "We're fully booked," Olivia blinked. "That's impossible. I have a confirmed reservation. Grant, Olivia Grant." She slid her ID and platinum card across the counter, both reflecting the sterile light. He looked at her, then at the card. His expression shifted in a faint dismissive smirk. "Corporate policy requires additional verification for high-value bookings." The pause lingered like a stain. Behind her, a white couple strolled in, laughing. The same clerk straightened, smiled warmly, and handed them 2 key cards without hesitation. Something cracked inside her. Quiet, sharp. "I'm the CEO of Nexel Technologies," she said softly. "You just canceled the wrong woman's room." His smirk deepened. "Ma'am, please lower your voice. We don't want to disturb our guests." That last word hit like a slap, and the lobby went still. Her phone buzzed. A message from her assistant lit the screen. "Press is already asking about your Tokyo merger. Need statement ASAP." Her reflection in the glass door looked calm, but her chest burned. The humiliation didn't fade. It calcified. Outside, thunder rolled across the skyline. Olivia turned toward the rain, the clerk's voice echoing behind her. "You people always overreact." The sound of her heels on marble was the only answer. By dawn, the hotel's ownership papers would be on her desk, and her vengeance would be silent, signed, sealed, and devastating. The automatic doors whispered open to a blast of chilled air and faint piano music. The Grand Meridian Hotel's lobby glittered, all marble and gold trim, the kind of opulence that pretended to be neutral. Olivia Grant stepped in, shoulders straight despite the fatigue wrapping her body. Tokyo to New York to here. 3 time zones, 2 boardrooms, 0 rest. Her heels clicked against the floor like a metronome, keeping her dignity in rhythm. She clutched her leather folder, checked her phone. 8:47 p.m., her driver had already gone. Just one night, she told herself. Sleep, shower, silence. The front desk attendant didn't look up. He was young, white, too polished, the kind of man who enjoyed small power. His name tag read Ethan. Olivia smiled, polite and practiced. "Good evening. Reservation under Olivia Grant. 1 executive suite," he typed lazily. "Name again?" "Olivia Grant." Tap, tap, tap. He squinted at the screen. A pause stretched. He leaned back, voice sliding into condescension. "Are you sure it's the Grand Meridian?" Her jaw tightened. "Yes, confirmed through my corporate account. Booked 3 weeks ago." He sighed, exaggerated, as if granting her a favor. "Well, Ms. Grant, I'm not seeing a reservation." She placed her phone on the counter, thumb scrolling through emails until she found it. Confirmation, prepaid, time-stamped. "Here." He glanced at it, then looked at her and really looked. The change in his expression was minute but unmistakable. A quick calculation behind the eyes. "Right," he said finally, voice turning clipped. "Corporate bookings require identity verification, because of recent issues. May I see a company card or letterhead?" Olivia slid her Nexel Technologies business card forward. Embossed gold logo, clean serif font. CEO Ethan's smile tightened. "Unfortunately, this doesn't count as official verification. Policy's policy." Behind her, a couple approached, white, mid-40s, laughing about the theater. He greeted them with warmth that bordered on servile. "Welcome back, Mr. and Mrs. Lowell. Suite 901 is ready, just as always." He handed them key cards without a pause. Olivia's stomach sank, not with shock, but recognition, the quiet, familiar sting of exclusion dressed as procedure. She spoke calmly. "You're checking them in without ID." He gave a thin smile. "They're regulars. Different protocol." A few guests glanced over, curiosity flickering like candlelight. Olivia could feel the shift, the silent verdict forming before she could defend herself. "I'd like to speak to your manager," she said, voice steady. He hesitated, then pressed a button on the phone. "Manager to front desk, please." His tone carried faint irritation, as if she were the inconvenience. While waiting, he leaned closer, lowering his voice. Ma'am, there's no need to make this harder. You could just try another hotel. Olivia inhaled through her nose, controlling every breath. Years of boardrooms had trained her to hold composure like armor. But the armor had cracks tonight. The manager arrived, a woman in her 50s with pearl earrings and the measured politeness of corporate diplomacy. I'm Susan, how can I help? Olivia repeated the facts. Reservation confirmed. Payment cleared. Corporate account verified. Susan skimmed the email, her lips pressed into a polite line. I'm afraid we're overbooked, Ms. Grant. We've had a system error with third-party bookings. I didn't use a third party. Susan hesitated. Too long. I understand, but unfortunately all suites are taken. Then downgrade me, Olivia said. Any room will do. Susan's tone cooled further. We don't have any available rooms at this time. Behind them, the lobby doors opened. Another couple entered, dripping from rain. The clerk brightened immediately. Checking in for the Deluxe King, Mr. Donovan? Yes, right this way. Olivia turned slowly toward him. So you do have rooms. Ethan didn't meet her eyes. Susan straightened, voice firm. Ms. Grant, please don't raise your voice. She hadn't. The piano music felt louder now, too cheerful, too artificial. Olivia could feel every gaze, every whisper sliding under her skin. Her throat tightened, not from shame but fury that demanded containment. She reached into her bag, pulled out her corporate ID, titanium finish, engraved. You're denying service to the CEO of Nexel Technologies. Susan blinked, momentary recognition flickering. Nexel, the software firm? Yes, the one whose app your hotel uses for reservations. Silence. Even the clerk froze, then Susan recovered. Ms. Grant, I assure you this is not personal. It's procedural. The word hit harder than any slur. Procedural. The polished excuse for prejudice. Olivia gathered her things. You'll regret this. Ethan gave a faint smirk. Ma'am, please don't make a scene. We wouldn't want to disturb our guests. That word again. Guests. Weighted with ownership, exclusion, and centuries of unspoken lines. A young black bellhop standing nearby looked down, pretending not to hear. The silence of the bystander was louder than anything else. Olivia forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. No scene necessary. She turned and walked away, each step deliberate. The automatic doors parted again, the rain outside waiting like absolution. Her phone buzzed. A message from her assistant, Jade. Just saw a tweet. Someone filmed what happened. Are you okay? Olivia didn't answer. She stood under the awning, rain pooling around her heels, watching the gold-lit lobby behind the glass. Her reflection looked unbroken, but inside she was unraveling with precision. Humiliation wasn't new, but this time it felt recorded. The moment had witnesses, cameras, the weight of narrative. She opened her phone, saved the confirmation email, forwarded it to Jade. Find out who owns the Grand Meridian. On it, came the reply seconds later. Thunder cracked above, sudden and close, the kind that splits the sky clean open. Her car arrived, a black sedan gliding to the curb. She stepped in, silent. The driver glanced at her through the mirror. Everything all right, Ms. Grant? She didn't answer. Outside, the hotel's golden letters reflected in the window as the car pulled away. Grand Meridian, arrogance wrapped in elegance. Her voice finally broke the silence, cold and even. Tomorrow call Victor Chen in Singapore. Tell him I want the Meridian Group's latest financials. The driver nodded, not understanding but sensing the command beneath the calm. Rain blurred the city lights into streaks of gold and red. Olivia leaned back, eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the glass. Every word, every pause, every slight, all catalogued, stored, encrypted in her memory. Her humiliation would not fade. It would mature, and by the time the marble lobby gleamed again under morning light, the woman they dismissed would already be moving to own the building that turned her away. The penthouse was silent, the city below restless. Olivia Grant stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, her reflection superimposed over Manhattan's midnight sprawl. In the glass she looked composed, white blouse immaculate, posture straight, but the tremor in her fingers betrayed the truth. She set down her glass of water. It clinked too hard against the counter. The television behind her played the late-night business news. A scrolling headline, Nexel Technologies CEO returns from Tokyo after landmark deal. Her own face filled the screen, a still from the press conference just days earlier. Calm, brilliant, in control, then her phone buzzed. Again, and again. She turned. Her assistant Jade was calling. "Tell me it's not trending," Olivia said before answering. Jade's voice came fast, anxious. "It is. Someone recorded the whole thing. The clip's got 1 million views. CEO denied room because of her skin color. That's the headline. Reporters are already tagging Nexel." Olivia exhaled slowly. "Send me the clip." Seconds later, her phone lit up with the grainy video. The lobby, the clerk. Her calm defiance caught in crisp sound. The internet had already decided what it meant. The comments were a storm. Some called her a hero. Others called her dramatic. Most didn't care. They just consumed. Jade's voice softened. "You want me to draft a statement?" "No." "But the board," I said no. Her tone was calm but final. Silence. Then Jade quietly, "You okay?" Olivia didn't answer. The question was useless. Okay wasn't part of her vocabulary. She hung up, staring again at her reflection. For a moment she saw not herself but her mother, standing in a department store years ago, being followed by a clerk pretending to fold sweaters. Olivia had been 10. Her mother had smiled through it. Later in the car she'd said, "Don't let them see you break. They want the crack more than the truth." Olivia pressed her palms against the glass now, cold against skin. The city lights blurred beneath her fingertips. A soft knock on the door. Marcus Reed stepped in, her CFO and oldest friend. Tall, broad-shouldered, suit loosened after a long day. He didn't bother with greetings. "I saw the video." "Of course you did," she said. He crossed the room, set 2 cups of coffee on the table. "You want to go nuclear, don't you?" "I want to go factual." He sighed. "Same thing coming from you." Olivia turned from the window. "They humiliated me in public, Marcus." You saw the look in that clerk's eyes. He didn't see a client. He saw a problem. I know. He sipped his coffee. But if you make this a public fight, it becomes about race drama, not accountability. The board will panic. Investors will pull. You'll lose more than face. Her eyes sharpened. So I'm supposed to do what? Pretend it didn't happen? He didn't answer. Olivia's voice lowered almost to a whisper. "I've spent my entire career making sure I was undeniable. Every contract, every meeting, every merger. Perfection wasn't ambition. It was survival. And still, one boy behind a counter can erase all of it in 15 seconds. Marcus leaned back. That's not erasure, Liv, it's exposure. You scared him just by existing. Then let's make sure he never forgets why. Meaning, she looked at him, expression unreadable. Meaning the system that hired him will learn who signs their paychecks. Marcus frowned. You're not seriously, I'm completely serious. He rubbed his temple. Buying a hotel chain just to make a point. It's not a point, she interrupted. It's principle. He let out a dry laugh. You sound like your father. Good. They stood in silence, the hum of the city filling the space between them. Finally, Marcus said, At least wait until this dies down. Don't make a move while everyone's watching. Olivia turned back to the window. They'll stop watching soon enough. Outrage has a 2-day shelf life, he studied her. And after that? She didn't look away from the skyline. After that, they'll forget. But I won't, Marcus rose. You sure you're not doing this for revenge? Her reflection met his in the glass. I don't do revenge. I do correction. He picked up his jacket, pausing at the door. You always win, Olivia, just don't forget what winning costs. The door shut softly. Alone again, Olivia walked to her desk. The clock read 12:03 a.m. She opened her laptop, the glow illuminating her face like a verdict. Email drafts, financial reports, merger data, all waiting. But her mind wasn't on business. It was on marble, on silence, on the way that clerk's smirk had been both casual and ancient. She opened a new file. Meridian acquisition, feasibility study. Her fingers moved quickly, deliberate keystrokes. Company structure, parent holdings, capital investors, ownership patterns. She didn't notice the minutes passing. The city outside dimmed into a muted gray-blue as dawn approached. Birds began to stir on the terrace. Her reflection now was clearer, eyes raw but alive. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Jade. FYI, protest forming outside the hotel. They're chanting your name. Olivia stared at it, then replied, no statements. Not yet. She closed her laptop. The screen went black, reflecting only her face. Let them chant, she murmured. While they make noise, I'll make moves. She walked to the balcony, opened the door. The air was cold, laced with rain from last night's storm. The skyline glowed faintly, the Grand Meridian's light still visible across the river, defiant. Her phone vibrated one last time. A message from Marcus. You're serious about this, aren't you? Her reply was a single word. Completely. She slid the phone into her pocket, watching dawn bleed across the city. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like the woman defending her seat at the table. She felt like the one who built the table, and was now deciding who deserved to sit there. The breaking point wasn't the humiliation. It was the realization that she didn't need permission to rewrite the rules. By sunrise, her assistant would have a list of shell corporations ready. By afternoon, the first call would go to a lawyer in Singapore, and by the end of the week, the Grand Meridian would be in her crosshairs, not as a victim seeking justice, but as an architect designing consequence. The boardroom was silent except for the ticking of a wall clock. Frosted glass filtered the morning light into clean geometry: gray, silver, white. Olivia Grant sat at the head of the table, hands folded, expression unreadable. Across from her, Victor Chen adjusted his tie, the faintest glint of nerves flashing beneath his usual calm. You're sure this structure is untraceable? Olivia asked. Victor nodded. 2 shell firms, one in Singapore, one in Zurich. The purchase will appear as a private investment group acquiring undervalued hospitality assets in the U.S. Nothing links to Nexel or you personally. Good. He hesitated. Olivia, this is going to raise eyebrows. The Grand Meridian's parent company is stable but not cheap. You're planning a full acquisition? Yes. Why this hotel chain specifically? Her gaze cut through him. Because it's rotting from the inside. He said nothing more. Across the table, Jade took notes quietly, her pen moving in measured rhythm. Every now and then she looked up. At her boss, at Victor, at the projection screen showing the Meridian Group's financial breakdown. Net worth, $1.8 billion. Publicly traded, 73 hotels across North America. Target 30% ownership first, Olivia said. Enough for board influence without exposure. Victor tapped his tablet. I'll arrange the capital structure. We can disguise initial investment through a holding fund. You'll need a local proxy CEO. I already have one. Who? Marcus, Victor blinked. Your CFO? He's the only one I trust to hold a mask. Jade paused, glancing at her. Marcus doesn't even know yet. He will, Olivia said. When it's time. Silence hung again, thick, deliberate. Then Victor exhaled, resigned. All right. I'll begin paperwork today. Not paperwork, Olivia corrected. Blueprints, he frowned. Blueprints? She leaned forward, voice quiet but edged. I'm not just buying a hotel. I'm designing a message, one they can't ignore, rewrite, or spin into pity. Every signature, every share will be a line of architecture. When it's finished, they'll look up and realize they're standing inside a building they no longer own. Victor's throat tightened. Understood. The meeting ended at 11:47 a.m. When the others left, Jade lingered. You really think this will work? Olivia closed her folder. No, I know it will. Jade hesitated, then spoke softly. You could just sue them, you know. Make it public. Win the moral war. I don't want morality, Olivia said. I want consequence. Jade nodded, but the unease didn't fade. Just be careful. They play dirty. Olivia allowed herself a thin smile. So do I. By evening, the machinery was in motion. Email chains encrypted. Dummy corporations activated. Lawyers briefed without context. Each move was surgical, quiet, invisible. The internet's outrage had begun to fade, replaced by the next scandal. Olivia watched it burn out with clinical detachment. Marcus called late. You've been avoiding me. Busy, she replied. Victor told me you're setting up a holding fund under my name. Want to explain that? I want you to manage the investment group for a few months. He let out a low whistle. So it's real. It's happening. He laughed. The kind of laugh people make when disbelief meets admiration. You're playing God now. No, she said quietly. I'm playing architect. 2 days later, she walked into the Grand Meridian lobby again, unannounced. disguised behind glasses and a dark trench coat. No one recognized her. The same cold piano melody echoed through the air. Ethan, the clerk, stood at the counter chatting with another employee. His posture carried the same arrogance, casual, unearned. A new guest was checking in, a young black couple. They smiled politely as they handed over their IDs. Ethan examined them longer than necessary. "I'm sorry," he said, tone dripping with false sympathy. "It seems your card didn't go through?" The woman frowned. "That's impossible. Can you run it again?" He sighed. "Maybe try another card?" The husband reached for his wallet, jaw tight. The embarrassment was immediate, familiar. Olivia watched from the lobby cafe, espresso untouched. Her hand curled around the cup, the heat grounding her fury. The same pattern. The same smirk. The same script, rehearsed discrimination masked as policy. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jade. Meridian Group stock dips 2.3%. Acquisition talks progressing. Board will meet Monday. Olivia didn't reply. She was too busy watching the small cruelty unfold 30 feet away. When the couple finally got their room, Ethan turned back to his coworker, chuckling. Olivia stood, smoothing her coat. She approached the front desk, just close enough for him to glance her way. For a flicker of a second, confusion passed over his face. Recognition hovered, then vanished. He didn't place her. "Can I help you, ma'am?" he asked. Olivia smiled faintly. "No, just observing your procedures." He frowned. "Excuse me?" "Nothing," she said, turning away. "Carry on. You're doing exactly what's expected." Her tone was ice wrapped in silk. He blinked, unsettled, as she walked off. Outside, rain had begun again. Thin, cold, relentless. She stepped beneath her umbrella, her reflection warping in the glass door behind her. Every injustice, she realized, had an architecture. It was built in tone, in language, in policy. And like any structure, it could be dismantled, brick by brick. That night, Marcus joined her in her office. Documents littered the table. Balance sheets, ownership maps, legal drafts. "This is insane," he muttered, scanning the files. "You're about to control 30% of Meridian Group by the end of the week." 35, she corrected. "I bought the dip this morning," he looked up. "You don't stop, do you?" "Stopping is a privilege," she said. He shook his head. "You sound like you're at war." Olivia met his gaze. "I am. With who?" She closed the folder, the click of metal echoing in the quiet room. With the illusion that power and respect are the same thing, Marcus sat back, staring at her. "And when you win?" She smiled without warmth. "Then they'll learn the difference." In the days that followed, silence became her weapon. No interviews, no statements, just precision. By Friday, her holding company controlled enough shares to secure a board seat. The hotel's executives, still panicking over PR fallout, welcomed their mysterious investor with open arms. They didn't know the storm was already inside the walls, and Olivia, calm, invisible, unflinching, was the eye of it. The morning press outside the Grand Meridian was smaller than it had been a week ago, but the echoes remained. A handful of protesters still stood by the steps, holding signs that read, "Dignity denied" and "Justice in hospitality." The city's pulse had moved on, but the scar stayed visible, faint, stubborn. Inside, the marble floors gleamed as if nothing had happened. Corporate image demanded immaculate surfaces. Beneath that polish, rot spread quietly. In the manager's office upstairs, Susan Klein rubbed her temples. Her inbox overflowed. Media inquiries, policy revisions, a dozen corporate memos titled Reputational Response Strategy. "Ethan," she said, voice clipped, "have you finished the discrimination training modules?" The clerk shifted in his chair. "Halfway. Finish them by tomorrow." He smirked faintly. "Does anyone actually take those seriously?" Susan's eyes snapped up. "You should. We're still under audit from corporate. They want compliance proof by end of week." Ethan leaned back. "Corporate won't fire me. I followed procedure." "You embarrassed the brand," she hissed. He shrugged. She embarrassed herself. "I didn't make it racial." Susan's lips pressed tight. "The public disagrees." He said nothing, but the smirk didn't fade. Downstairs, the concierge desk buzzed with new guests. A tall woman entered, a sharp suit, black trench, sunglasses. Her ID read Alexandra Pierce, international investor. The staff straightened instantly. Money had gravity here. She smiled faintly. I have a meeting scheduled with Ms. Klein. Within minutes, Susan appeared. Polite, professional, nerves masked by routine. Ms. Pierce, welcome to the Grand Meridian. Beautiful property, Olivia said behind the alias. I'm considering investment opportunities in the hospitality sector. Your hotel caught my attention. Flattery was easy currency. Susan brightened. We're part of the Meridian Group. Highly profitable, strong corporate backing. I know, Olivia said. That's why I'm here. They moved toward the elevator. Olivia's eyes flicked across the lobby. Same gold trim, same cold piano notes. She felt the same tension in her chest, but now it burned slower, steadier. Inside the elevator, she spoke casually. I read about a small incident here last week. Something about a guest denied service? Susan stiffened. Ah, miscommunication, entirely procedural. Olivia smiled faintly. Procedural. A convenient word. Susan hesitated. I assure you we've handled it. Staff training, policy updates. It's behind us, the elevator dinged open. Of course, Olivia murmured. They stepped into the executive suite wing. Susan gestured around. We pride ourselves on inclusivity. The media exaggerated everything. Olivia turned toward her. The media rarely creates injustice, Ms. Klein, it just records it. The words hung, sharp and strange. Susan blinked, uncertain how to respond. I'd like to see your operations, Olivia continued. Front desk, training logs, staff conduct records? Susan faltered. That's confidential. Olivia removed her sunglasses. The sudden recognition in Susan's eyes was instant, shock freezing into silence. Ms. Grant. Olivia cut her off. Continue the tour. Susan's throat moved, dry. I didn't know you were... I know, Olivia said. That's the problem. They walked in silence through the hallways, the sound of Olivia's heels echoing like verdicts. Staff members glanced up, unsure whether to smile or vanish. At the front desk, Ethan froze mid-keystroke. His face drained. Olivia stopped directly in front of him. Still working here? His voice cracked. Ms. Grant, I didn't... She raised a hand. Don't insult both of us with excuses. The entire lobby went still. Guests looked on, sensing the shift but not understanding it. Susan cleared her throat. Ms. Grant, perhaps we could... Olivia turned to her. You wanted discretion. Here it is. Then to Ethan quietly, I'm not firing you. He blinked, confused. You're not? No, that would let you play the victim. I prefer accountability. You'll attend every inclusion training session, manage community outreach, and issue public apologies under your full name. Ethan's voice trembled. You can't. I own this hotel, she said, voice soft, deadly. I can, gasps rippled across the room. Susan stepped forward, horror etched into her face. You own? Olivia's tone was ice. 38% of Meridian Group as of yesterday. You'll receive an internal memo shortly. She turned, walking toward the exit. Effective immediately, I'll assume interim oversight of this location. No one moved. The clerk's chair creaked behind her as he sank down, small now, swallowed by the silence he'd once commanded. Outside, the air was heavy with rain again. Olivia stood beneath the awning, breathing deeply. For a brief moment, she expected satisfaction. Instead, she felt only exhaustion, a bone-deep ache carved from restraint. Jade approached from the car, tablet in hand. It's done. Press still doesn't know you're the buyer. They just think it's another investor group. Good, Olivia said. Let it stay that way. You sure you don't want public credit? You could turn this into a statement. Olivia shook her head. Statements fade. Systems last. They walked toward the waiting car. As the doors shut, Olivia looked back once and through the glass. The lobby gleamed brighter than ever, but she could see the cracks now, thin lines running beneath the marble. Invisible to most. Justice, she murmured, isn't loud. It's structural. Jade turned to her. And the people who broke it? Olivia stared ahead. They'll live in what they built until it collapses. The car pulled away, leaving the hotel framed against the gray skyline, immaculate and hollow. The conference room on the 43rd floor was designed to intimidate. Dark wood table, panoramic view of the city, and a glass wall that reflected every anxious face. The weekly board meeting had begun 10 minutes ago, but the atmosphere was brittle. Strained. Let's come to order, said Richard Langford, Meridian Group's chairman, his voice heavy with practiced authority. We're here to discuss the acquisition of our Midtown property and recent complications. Olivia sat midway down the table, composed, silent. The others, 11 executives, all in suits tailored to precision, unavoided meeting her eyes. A projector flicked on, displaying the headline still haunting the company's press coverage. Black executive denied service at Grand Meridian. Below it, incident sparks public debate over racial bias in corporate hospitality. Richard's tone sharpened. We've spent a week doing damage control. Now I learn that one of our shareholders, his eyes cut toward her, took it upon herself to buy the very property at the center of this crisis. Murmurs rippled through the room. Olivia didn't move. Correction. I didn't take it upon myself. I followed open market policy. Meridian stock was available. I bought it. A woman across the table, CFO, silver necklace, clipped tone, interjected. But without notifying the board? Olivia's gaze met hers. You didn't notify me before denying me service. Silence. Richard leaned forward, jaw tight. This isn't about your personal grievances, Ms. Grant. Olivia's voice cut cleanly. It's about your institutional ones. The words hit harder than volume could. The air shifted, uncomfortable, crackling. I'm not here for revenge, she continued. I'm here to ensure your systems can't erase people like me again. Richard's fist tapped the table once. Our systems work fine. What happened was a symptom, Olivia interrupted. Not an accident, he stood now, tone rising. You think you understand this business because you have capital? You're emotional. You're using this as spectacle. Her voice didn't waver. If emotion means refusing humiliation twice, then yes, I'm emotional. A few of the younger board members exchanged glances, discomfort mixed with something like admiration. Richard straightened his tie. We're moving to a vote. Effective immediately, Ms. Grant's acquisition will be reviewed by the Compliance Committee for potential conflict of interest. Olivia smiled faintly. Conflict of interest. Interesting phrase coming from a man whose brother owns your PR firm. Richard froze. Her assistant, Jade, stepped forward from the side wall, sliding a folder across the table. Documentation of undisclosed contracts between Langford Communications and Meridian Group. Total value, $21 million. Over 3 years. Gasps cut through the boardroom. Olivia's tone stayed measured. Since we're discussing compliance, perhaps we should review all conflicts of interest. One of the younger executives, a man in his 30s, cleared his throat. Chairman, these numbers, are they verified? Jade nodded. All public record, buried in the subsidiary filings. Richard's composure fractured barely. This is irrelevant. It's the system, Olivia said. And this, she gestured toward the file, is how it protects itself. The CFO leaned forward. What are you proposing? Accountability, Olivia said. Starting with transparency. Every executive disclosure, every subcontract, every diversity audit released publicly. Richard slammed a palm on the table. You're turning a private company into a crusade. No, she said quietly. I'm turning it into a mirror. The silence that followed was long and surgical. The younger executive finally spoke. I move we table the compliance review until we verify Ms. Grant's claims. A murmur of agreement followed. Richard looked around the table, realizing the balance had shifted. You're making a mistake, he warned. Olivia rose from her seat. Correction again, she said. You already made it. She gathered her files, sliding them neatly into her briefcase. Gentlemen, ladies, transparency memo will circulate by end of week. Good day. She turned to leave. Ms. Grant, Richard said, voice low but dangerous. You think you can walk into this company and change everything overnight? Olivia paused at the door, looking back. No, she said. But I can start the clock. Then she was gone. Outside the boardroom, the city light spilled through tall windows. Jade walked beside her, adrenaline still sharp. You just detonated a board, Jade said. Not detonated, Olivia replied. Exposed. You think they'll fight back? Of course. Men like Langford always do. But now they'll fight in daylight. They entered the elevator, mirrored walls reflecting 2 women. Calm, dangerous, deliberate. Jade exhaled. What's next? Olivia watched the city descend below them. Restructure, audit, build something that lasts longer than outrage. As the doors opened on the lobby floor, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A man's voice came through, measured, authoritative. Ms. Grant, this is Malcolm Avery, legal counsel for the Meridian Board. Chairman Langford has initiated a motion to suspend your voting rights pending investigation. Her pulse quickened. On what grounds? Conflict of interest and breach of fiduciary conduct, he said. You'll receive official notice within the hour. She smiled bitterly. Of course. Ms. Grant, he added. Off the record, Langford's cornered. He'll come hard. Be careful. The line went dead. Olivia stared at her reflection in the glass. Steady eyes, unreadable face. Jade watched her. He's going to try to bury you. Olivia turned toward the street, the rain beginning again. Then we'll build higher. The elevator chimed shut behind them. Above, the boardroom lights still burned, bright, sterile, desperate, and the clock had indeed begun. The email arrived at 2:43 a.m., unsigned, encrypted with the subject line, "They're coming for you." Olivia opened it immediately. Inside were attachments, internal memos, meeting transcripts, fragments of conversations that should never have existed outside closed doors. Each file bore the Meridian Group letterhead. Each detailed deliberate acts of suppression, false training logs, diversity audits fabricated to mislead investors, whistleblower complaints marked, resolved, no action. She scrolled further. One thread froze her hand midair. Langford to exec committee, private. She'll fold once legal pressure mounts. We'll frame her as unstable, overreactive. The public loves a meltdown. Her throat tightened. The words weren't just strategy. They were anatomy. A dissection of her credibility before she'd even defended it. From the next room, Jade's voice cut through the quiet. You're still up? Couldn't sleep. Olivia turned the screen toward her. Look, Jade read, her expression hardening. They're orchestrating a smear campaign and using internal PR assets. Of course they are, Olivia said softly. Langford's people don't fight in courtrooms. They fight in headlines. By dawn, the first hit appeared. Headline: Grand Meridian activist investor faces conflict probe, accused of misconduct. Subtext: Anonymous sources allege personal vendetta. Olivia set the tablet down. Right on schedule, Jade rubbed her eyes. This is straight character assassination. It's procedural to them, Olivia replied. Destroy the person to preserve the system. The phone rang again. Malcolm Avery's voice came through tense. They filed injunction papers, attempting to freeze your voting rights until internal review. On what evidence? They're claiming your acquisition used insider knowledge from your consulting work 2 years ago. It's weak, but it buys them time. Olivia leaned back. Time's exactly what they need to discredit me. Malcolm hesitated. If you fight this publicly, they'll spin it as emotional retaliation. And if I stay silent? They'll write your silence as guilt, a bitter smile. Then we change the narrative. 2 days later, Olivia walked into a newsroom instead of a boardroom. Cameras lined the walls. Journalists murmured, sensing blood. The host, a polished anchor with practiced empathy, gestured her to the chair. Ms. Grant, thank you for joining us. You're at the center of an intense public dispute. How do you respond to allegations that your purchase of the Grand Meridian was a personal vendetta? Olivia met the camera lens directly. If demanding equal treatment is a vendetta, then maybe the system has confused justice for revenge. The host hesitated. Are you saying Meridian Group's leadership discriminated against you? I'm saying Meridian Group operates on structures that make discrimination look like policy. The studio fell quiet for a beat, the kind of silence that rewrites perception. Back at corporate HQ, Langford watched the segment in fury. His reflection glared back from the darkened screen. She's turning this into a crusade, he muttered. Across the room, his legal advisor, a wiry man with too much confidence, adjusted his tie. Public sympathy doesn't last. We'll flood the media with counter-narratives. Langford turned sharply. Do it. She wants war, we'll give her one. Understood. We'll release the internal memo on her acquisition. Make it look unethical. Langford's expression twisted into something close to satisfaction. Leak it anonymously. And call the compliance chair. Tell him to accelerate the suspension hearing. By evening, Olivia received another file, this time from within, a whistleblower. Subject: They're fabricating evidence. Attachment: Meeting transcript from Langford's team, discussing forged timestamps and falsified acquisition records. Jade's hands trembled as she scrolled. This is it. This is your leverage. Olivia's voice stayed even. Not yet. It's still unsigned. If we publish, they'll dismiss it as false. So we verify. We can't, not without exposing the sender. And if they're still inside, they're risking everything. She looked out the window, city lights blinking like signals across the skyline. Sometimes systems only break when the people inside can't survive them anymore. At the next board hearing, Langford was already seated when Olivia entered. Cameras outside clicked relentlessly. He greeted her with a thin smile. You've made quite the spectacle. She ignored him, taking her place. The chair of compliance began, voice formal. This hearing addresses potential misconduct in Ms. Grant's recent acquisition. Before he could finish, Olivia slid a flash drive across the table. Before we proceed, you'll want to review these. Langford frowned. What is this? Internal communications, fraudulent audits, falsified compliance logs, every instance of Meridian concealing discrimination metrics under your tenure. The chair hesitated. Where did you obtain this? Anonymously, Olivia said. But the metadata confirms corporate origin. Verify it. I'll wait. Langford's composure faltered as the documents appeared on the projector, his own name time-stamped marked on approval chains. The boardroom fell silent. The compliance chair read aloud, destroy all audit drafts before external review. Adjust demographic ratios to meet PR minimums. Every word a nail. Langford's voice rose. This is fabricated. Olivia leaned forward. You'd better hope so, because if it's real, it's federal. The chair's tone was grave now. We'll recess for verification. This hearing is adjourned until morning. As the room emptied, Langford glared at her. You think this saves you? No, she said softly. It saves the truth. Outside the building, reporters swarmed. Microphones, lights, chaos. A question cut through. Ms. Grant, do you believe this is the end of Chairman Langford's career? She stopped. I believe endings belong to systems, not people. And this one is just beginning. The flashbulbs flared white against her skin as she stepped into the waiting car. Inside, Jade whispered, You've just lit the fuse. Olivia watched the skyline recede. No, she said quietly. The fuse was always burning. We just made it visible. Morning broke with the sound of headlines detonating across the city. Meridian Group under investigation for fraud. Discrimination cover-up. Board Chair Richard Langford named an internal document leak. By noon, the company's stock had fallen 17%. Investors demanded emergency meetings. Staff whispered in hallways, wondering how deep the rot went. Inside her office, Olivia watched the news in silence. She didn't smile. There was no satisfaction, only gravity. Jade entered, tablet in hand. It's official. The Department of Labor just announced an inquiry. They're citing the documents you released. Anonymous documents, Olivia corrected. Jade nodded. Anonymous. But authenticated. A pause. Rain streaked the windows again and the city's quiet applause. You did it, Jade said softly. Olivia shook her head. Not yet. Systems don't collapse overnight. They rot, then sink. At Meridian headquarters, chaos reigned. The boardroom that once echoed with arrogance now buzzed with crisis lawyers, PR advisors, and compliance officers in defensive postures. Langford stood by the window, pacing. His reflection looked smaller now, pale, brittle, cornered. His aide entered, voice shaking. The board's demanding your resignation. Langford turned sharply. They wouldn't dare. They already did. Unanimous vote pending this afternoon. He slammed his hand against the glass. This is a witch hunt. She has the evidence, the aide whispered. For a moment, the old power flickered behind his eyes. Then we discredit the evidence. It's verified, sir. Langford's hand fell to his side. He stared out over the city. The skyline that once mirrored his ambition now seemed to tilt away from him. She'll destroy everything, he muttered. No, the aide said quietly. You did that yourself. By evening, the board convened again. The room was colder this time, not air-conditioned, just stripped of reverence. The compliance chair cleared his throat. We have concluded our review. The documents are authentic. Multiple signatures, timestamps, and internal communications corroborate systemic data falsification under your leadership. Langford's jaw tightened. You're taking her word over mine? We're taking the evidence, the chair replied. Olivia sat across from him, calm, unsmiling, still. The chair continued. Effective immediately, Richard Langford is suspended pending federal review. Interim control of Meridian Group will be assigned to Ms. Olivia Grant. A murmur swept the room. Langford's face flushed with disbelief. You're handing this company to her? No, Olivia said quietly. You handed it to me the day you showed me who you really were. He rose suddenly, pointing a trembling finger. You don't understand how this works. This company is power. You think you've won because the press likes your story? Power always finds a way back. Olivia stood too, meeting his gaze. Then maybe it's time we change what power looks like. The room held its breath. For the first time, Langford didn't respond. He simply turned, collected his papers, and walked out. The sound of his steps dull against the carpet, smaller than his silence. Outside the glass walls, the media frenzy was instant. Cameras clustered as Langford exited, his forced smile barely holding. Inside, Olivia remained at the head of the table. The executives waited, uncertain whether to clap or flee. She finally spoke. No congratulations. No victory speeches. This isn't triumph. It's surgery. We cut out what's killing us or it grows back. Her tone carried no pride, only resolve. She gestured to the CFO. Release every past audit publicly. No redactions. I want community oversight, not corporate spin. The CFO hesitated. That's unprecedented. So is this, Olivia said. Do it. She turned toward Jade. We'll rebuild from the inside. Transparent hiring. External Accountability Board wage equity audit. And I want the first report in 30 days. Jade nodded. You'll have it. That night, the building emptied. Olivia stood alone by the massive glass wall overlooking the city. The lights below shimmered through the drizzle, fractured, uncertain. She pressed her hand against the glass. The reflection that stared back wasn't triumphant. It was tired but unbroken. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You don't know me. I was one of the employees whose complaint got buried. Thank you. Another followed. For the first time in 20 years, I think this place might change. She exhaled slowly, eyes glistening. For once, the silence around her felt earned. Jade entered quietly. You should get some rest. I can't, Olivia said. There's too much to fix. Langford will fight back, Jade warned. Men like that don't vanish. I know. Olivia looked back out at the skyline. But now he fights without his armor. The system that shielded him just turned transparent. Jade studied her. You don't sound relieved. Olivia smiled faintly. Relief isn't the goal. Reform is. At dawn, the Grand Meridian Hotel reopened under new management. The same gold-trimmed lobby, but new signage gleamed behind the counter. The Grant Initiative, hospitality with integrity. Ethan stood at the front desk, uniform pressed, posture straight. When Olivia entered, he froze, unsure whether to greet or retreat. She nodded once. How's the training? Different, he admitted. Real. Good. Keep it that way. As she turned to leave, he blurted, Ms. Grant, I was wrong. She stopped. I know, he swallowed. Thank you for not firing me. Olivia's voice was soft but firm. Learn why I didn't. Then she left. Outside, the city was brighter now, the kind of light that arrives only after storms. Jade joined her on the sidewalk. You really bought an empire just to fix it? Olivia smiled, tired but whole. No, I bought it to prove it could be rebuilt. They walked past the marble facade. The cracks remained, faint but visible. Reminders, not scars. Olivia looked back once more, eyes steady. Justice isn't the end, she murmured. It's maintenance. The city kept moving, relentless, imperfect, alive, and somewhere high above. The skyline reflected her face. Not as a victim, not as a conqueror, but as the architect of what came next. 6 months later, the Grand Meridian no longer smelled of fear. The lobby had changed. Warmer lights, open glass, quiet music that didn't demand attention. Guests smiled at staff who smiled back. No stiffness, no hierarchy. Just work. Honest, visible, accountable. Olivia stood near the same marble counter where she'd once been denied a room. Now the staff greeted her by name. their tone neither forced nor fearful. "Morning, Ms. Grant," said Ethan, handing her a guest report. "Occupancy's up 12% this quarter." She skimmed the file. "Good. Keep focusing on community events. The neighborhood trusts us now." "That's worth more than margin," he nodded. "We've been hosting youth business programs every Saturday. The local paper's covering one this weekend." "Excellent," she said simply, then moved on. Her days had shifted, fewer battles, more building. But sometimes when the corridors went quiet, she still heard echoes, the tone of Langford's voice, the laughter of guests who'd pretended not to see, the silence that once weighed more than words. In the upper floors of the corporate tower, new leadership occupied old seats. The Transparency Initiative had turned Meridian Group into a case study in reform. Quarterly audits were now public. HR policies rewritten. Board diversity expanded, but change came with cost. Olivia sat in her corner office reading through an investigative report. The document cataloged what the media called the Meridian Reckoning. Lawsuits settled. Careers ended. Reputations rebuilt or erased. Jade entered, placing coffee on her desk. "Press wants another interview." "Anniversary of the incident." "No," Olivia said. "Let them tell their version. Ours is already in the work." Jade studied her. "You still don't like being the story?" "I was never supposed to be," Olivia replied. "I was supposed to check into a hotel." Silence settled between them, heavy but peaceful. That afternoon, she drove alone to the riverfront. The city's skyline shimmered in the water, fractured light on slow current. She parked, stepped out, and breathed. The air was cooler, the noise distant. The same skyline that once looked hostile now looked like something she'd learned to coexist with, not trust, but navigate. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unfamiliar number. "Ms. Grant, I used to work under Langford. I stayed silent when I shouldn't have. I just wanted to say, I see now what silence costs." She read it twice, then deleted it. Not out of anger, out of release. Across town, Richard Langford sat in a quiet cafe, a man diminished. The newspapers had stopped covering his downfall months ago. His name now appeared only in footnotes or case summaries. He stirred his coffee slowly, hands trembling. When a young server approached, he looked up briefly, old habits almost resurfacing, but caught himself. He smiled instead, soft, human. "Thank you," he said. She nodded and left. For a moment, he stared out the window, at a passing billboard for the Grand Meridian. A new slogan read, "Hospitality with Integrity, a Grant Initiative." He exhaled. The old arrogance was gone. In its place, something like understanding, or maybe just exhaustion. He whispered to himself, "She rebuilt what I thought I owned." Then he finished his coffee and left a generous tip. Back at the hotel, Olivia met with a group of interns, mostly young women, some from backgrounds that would have once barred them from entering such spaces. One of them, nervous but eager, asked, "Ms. Grant, do you ever wish you'd handled it differently?" Olivia paused. "I wish it hadn't needed handling." Another asked, "Do you forgive them?" She thought for a long moment. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about refusing to live in their story forever. The room went quiet, the interns absorbing the weight of that. Later that evening, she visited the rooftop terrace, the same one the executives used to reserve for private parties. Now it hosted community events and staff dinners. Ethan was there, helping pack up chairs. "You still working this late?" she asked. He shrugged. "Someone's got to clean up." Olivia smirked. "Humility suits you." He smiled faintly. "I used to think rules were just rules, that if someone higher up said no, it wasn't my fault. I see now that's how everything stays broken." She nodded. "You learned. Still learning." "Good," she said. "That's all any of us can do." They stood for a moment, watching the city's lights scatter across the skyline, gold, white, and faint blue reflections rippling across the river. When she finally left, the lobby was empty. The same marble floor glowed under soft light, no longer cold, just reflective. She stopped by the old check-in desk, running her fingers across the polished surface. It was smooth now. No sign of the night that changed everything, and yet, the air still remembered, Olivia whispered, almost to herself. The hardest part isn't fighting them. It's what comes after, staying human. Outside, the rain began again, light and steady. She stepped out beneath it, unbothered. The night no longer felt like judgment, only renewal. As the door closed behind her, the camera inside caught her silhouette framed against the city. One woman, one story, and a system learning to rebuild. No speeches. No applause. Just continuity, and for the first time, justice felt less like a victory and more like a maintenance plan that might, just might, hold. The Grand Meridian's 10th floor conference hall was filled with quiet applause. A charity gala, understated but dignified. Suits, evening dresses, a jazz trio in the corner. Olivia stood at the podium, her voice calm, deliberate. "This initiative isn't about me," she said. "It's about who we let belong. It's about what happens when we stop accepting the way things are simply because they've always been that way." She paused, scanning the crowd. City officials, activists, business owners. Some had once been skeptics. Now they nodded, respectful. She continued. "Change isn't loud. It's the quiet work people do when no one's watching. It's policy rewritten. It's someone being treated right and not realizing how rare that used to be." Applause rose again, polite but genuine. After the speech, as guests mingled, Olivia stepped aside, her mind elsewhere. She looked out through the tall glass windows, the skyline glimmering under steady rain. The city never really slept. It just shifted its rhythm. "Good speech," Jade said, approaching with 2 glasses of water. Olivia smiled faintly. "You'd say that even if I froze halfway through." "True," Jade admitted. "But you didn't. You sounded like someone who made peace with the noise." "I haven't," Olivia said quietly. "I've just learned to hear it differently." Later that night, Olivia drove home through wet streets, the wipers cutting rhythmic arcs. The city blurred, signs, lights, people. All of it transient. Her phone buzzed on the seat. "Unknown number." She ignored it at first, then picked up. "Ms. Grant?" a man's voice asked. "This is Detective Romero, City PD. I'm sorry to reach you like this. It's about your father." The words hit with a weight that stole the breath from her chest. "He passed away an hour ago. Cardiac arrest. He'd listed you as his emergency contact." Silence. Then a low, hollow, "Thank you." The funeral was small, dignified. A few old colleagues from his church, distant cousins, and Olivia, standing alone at the front, hands clasped, face still. Her father had been a quiet man. Worked at the post office 30 years. Never raised his voice. Never trusted systems that weren't built for him. She placed a folded letter in his coffin, one he'd written her years ago after she got her first executive role. "Don't forget what rooms feel like before they let you in." She hadn't. When everyone left, she stayed behind, listening to the echo of rain on the cemetery canopy. She whispered, "You'd have liked the way it ended, Dad. Not perfect, but right enough." Back at the hotel, life went on. Meetings, expansions, media features. Yet something inside her had quieted. The fight that had once defined her now existed in maintenance. Policy updates, boardroom checks, mentorship programs. Important, but not fiery. Late one evening, Ethan found her in her office staring at an old photo. The night of the incident. Captured in a viral news still. Olivia standing, suitcase at her side. Defiance in her eyes. "You ever think about deleting that?" he asked gently. She smiled faintly. "You can't delete history. You can only decide what to do with it." He hesitated. "You've done enough, Olivia. You could step back." "I don't want to step back," she said. "But I don't want to stay angry either." He nodded, understanding. A month later, a major business magazine released a feature titled, "The Woman Who Bought the Room She Was Denied." It praised her leadership, her ethics, her quiet power. But Olivia barely skimmed it. She'd learned that recognition was a side effect, not a goal. That evening, she hosted a staff dinner in the courtyard. Long tables under string lights, laughter echoing. The youngest receptionist, a girl barely 20, clinked her glass nervously. "I just wanted to say," she began, "I never thought someone like me could work here. But now it feels normal. So thank you." Everyone clapped. Olivia smiled, but her eyes flickered with memory. Normal. The word that once felt impossible. After dinner, when the crowd thinned, she lingered by herself under the lights. Rain began to fall again, light familiar. She closed her eyes. The sound wasn't a storm anymore, just rhythm. A voice startled her. "Still here?" It was Jade, umbrella in hand. "Just thinking," Olivia said. "About what?" "How everything that broke me became Functional. But not the same. Jade tilted her head. You think that's loss? It is, Olivia said quietly. When you stop fighting, part of you goes quiet. You lose the adrenaline, the edge. But maybe that's the point. Peace costs something. They stood there, side by side, rain soft against the pavement. Weeks later, Olivia returned once more to the original front desk, the spot where it all began. She watched new guests check in, families, travelers, executives. No one looked nervous. The staff smiled freely. A journalist nearby recognized her, whispered to a cameraman. Olivia raised a hand gently. No pictures today. He nodded and lowered the lens. For a moment, she just stood there, a quiet woman in a black coat, watching a system that had once rejected her now serve others with dignity. Her reflection in the polished marble looked older, calmer, human. She whispered, "You can fix a building, not a memory." Then she turned and walked away. Outside, the city glowed with late-night neon. She passed a bus stop plastered with an ad. The Grant Foundation. Building access, not apologies. A small smile crossed her face. She hadn't written that line, but it fit. As she crossed the street, the rain eased. The traffic lights flickered red, then green, a small, silent permission. She kept walking. No soundtrack. No applause. Just her steps on wet pavement, fading into the hum of the city, steady, unbroken, forward.